you know what? As a young man, I played the trumpet, and I always used to think, I wish I was a drummer, because as a trumpet, you put a little bit more energy in because you're having to blow
all the time.
And I used to look at the drummers and think, what am I doing playing the trumpet? I should learn to play the drums.
Oh, there we are. It is done, I'm afraid, for Bjorn Kurt. Absolutely roughed up out there. Not good, Brian.
No, there's not a lot you can do when you come down heavily. I think Van Wilder will be the next in the pits. The World Championships is not a race. When you come down this heavily, what else can you do? You can suffer through. Van Wilder is here to help Evenepoel. He's kind of one of the right-hand men for Belgium. He'll be a big loss. He's continuing on in this race, but I think it's forlorn. I don't think, even if he gets back, he'll be much help for Remco Evenepoel today.
Let's see. When you're on a small circuit such as this, Brian, as well, you're never that far away from help, or indeed an escape option, I guess you might say. But equally, if you're not at your best, and another shake of the head here, I'm afraid, and Marc Soler, that is another big name that is clearly not going to be taking much further part in this. It's a real shame, because he's such a live wire and a great entertainer, Soler, isn't he?
I said at the time when he was there, for Ayuso, in my mind, is a major contender, and to lose someone like this, a teammate for the moment for Spain, trade teammate as well, although Ayuso's gone on to Lido Trek. It's Marc Soler could have been a big help to Juan Ayuso.
Not anymore. Back to the pits. Shake of the head says everything. So we've lost Alaphilippe, we've lost Marc Soler, we've lost Bjorn Kurt, we've lost quite a few out there, and there'll be more, I'm afraid, to go. Nobody said this was easy.
It just goes to show you, Carlton, just a moment of maybe lack of concentration, touching the wheels, locking the handlebars, and you're talking about 3 or 4 good riders there that have been hobbled, and 3 or 4 teams in nations. It could happen to the best riders in this peloton.
Agreed, entirely. And unfortunately, the attrition rate is including some very, very good riders that would have been part of the battle plans for a lot of our principal teams here. Look at this, you take yourself a roundabout. This is the Kimi Harura roundabout park. How lovely is that? I mean, we love the Arc de Triomphe, but what a spectacular rendition of a thing to do with a roundabout. There's a few in Glasgow as well, but we'll talk about the empty bottles of Irn-Bru in the middle. Some of them half empty. I'm going to tell you that sometimes it's not Irn-Bru that's in them, but anyway, let's move on. 2 minutes and 16 is our... 2 minutes and 16, 216, 2 minutes and 34, I should say, is the gap to a decent breakaway, but it's almost a holding pattern at the moment. And within, we're circulating, Brian, around about 24 minutes for this lap. In fact, we've got our last lap time for us. We'll have a look in a moment. We will be racking that up as a graphic for you. But it kind of gets into a sort of a vortex whirlwind. Gets quicker and quicker and quicker, it seems, towards the end. Here's Jai Hindley, got himself back here after a very brief technical. Super strong team from Australia. They have Hindley, they've got Jay Vine, Michael Storer, we have Luke Plapp as well. Michael Matthews is here. Bling is doing his thing.
Yeah, but he's had a crash in training before this race. He's got a few bandages and he's kind of hobbling around a little bit, so... He is a rider that has featured in the past in the World Championships, but I don't think let's see how he gets on. But if you've had a crash in training before this and he's limping, then I don't think he'll be a major feature in this race.
Great to have somebody with that level of experience, though, Brian, and almost as a talisman.
Exactly, it's good to have him here, and when he is here. Unfortunately, having that wee incident in training, we don't know too much detail about it, but looking at the front, I thought this would be purely just Slovenia on the front, but Belgium are clearly up for this with Vermeers, but also United States, yeah.
Neilson Powless, I guess disappointing that we had indeed that cancellation. But with Quinn Simmons here as well, they've got an option. He has turned himself into one of the feistiest, indeed, contenders. Van Wilder does not look great, and I think this is me just going over to the exit road. I think that was the sign here. Still testing himself out. He stayed on the bike, but surely it can't be for much longer because apart from anything else.
I think everyone's an underdog compared to Tadej, aren't they? So, but yeah, it's a nice course for me, and I think we saw in the women's race it can be an unpredictable race. So, I think it's a nice one for me.
The only difference is that on your course, there'll be the Mount Kigali, the Mur de Kigali. That could make a real difference.
Yeah, I think it's such a hard course anyway, whether it's in or out. It's I'm not sure it would really change the race too much, but 100% it's definitely going to be a bit of a focal point, and it's just a super hard climb.
Did you wake up with the dream of being world champion?
Yeah, I wouldn't be here if I didn't.
I like that. I also like Ben Healy. I think he's brilliant. He's brilliant for cycling, and he's made plenty of Irish eyes smiling in his direction.
Well, Ireland have done it before. I'm going to say this in a possibly surprising fashion.
Go on then.
Well, I've just said it in a surprising fashion.
No, you haven't. You've got to do it in a surprising fashion. What are you going to do? Put on a tutu? Go on.
No, he did it.
Oh,
in
I
a
see.
surprising fashion.
I thought you said, I am going to say this in a surprising fashion. I was thinking, how are you going to say this in a surprising fashion? But I misunderstood you.
Yeah, you did. Not for the first time. You did. With Stephen Roach, he was there supporting Sean Kelly. Mm-hmm. Sean Kelly was the rider that he was looking after during that World Championships. It came into the final throw of the day, and he went through a gap in the inside and became world champion. A good world champion, Stephen Roach, quality bike rider. He won the triple that year with the Giro d'Italia and the Tour de France. So you could say that he's a good world champion, but he won it in a kind of surprising fashion.
Well, yeah, Sean Kelly was the year that Greg LeMond won it for the second time. Greg LeMond had been saying all day, apparently, to Sean Kelly, who was in Grenoble, I believe, that he was feeling terrible and his legs were bad. And he found his legs through the day. And I'm hoping that such a thing happens to Tom Pidcock today and other riders that may be feeling a little bit out of sorts, that don't be tempted to go out. The race can come to you, can't it, sometimes?
It can, but I'm not too sure in this course, Carlton. There's no hiding in this course. Normally you come to a World Championships and just try and hide, just get through the day and feel better and better, because you're talking about a 6.5 hour shift here. Mm-hmm. And not everybody feels great for 6.5 hours on a bike. I don't know anybody that has.
What about on the mic?
Yeah, I don't think anybody even in the mic has felt great for doing 6.5 hours commentary.
Come on, Brian, my company, surely.
Yeah, so I'm going to skip over that and continue. The situation is you have mentally, just look at Pogačar here. He's just small gear, drifting.
Did you see a few moments ago, he moderated his entire team. It was like, right, let's get together, have a chat. We're doing too much here. Well, let's see what happens to the gap, shall we?
Well, I'm surprised that America actually riding. They've got 5 riders here, and I know Quinn Simmons, he did it as a junior in Harrogate, but to put excuse me, it looks like Will Barta here on the front. To put Will Barta on the front here, 5 riders, when you're up against Slovenia with 9, you're up against Belgium with 8, I think down to 7 now with Van Wilder gone. But it's quite a bold statement to come and ride at the front when I don't think they really have to do this.
I think the word there from Pogačar and Slovenia was like, well, if they want to ride this, let them ride this. Here's the Kigali golf course. Have you been round yet, Brian?
No, I wish. I quite fancy. I'm not. Everybody thinks you Scottish do play golf. The first question I get is,
what's your handicap?
You Scottish?
And
yes.
you say Carlton Kirby.
Yes, of course I do, all the time. You Scottish? Yeah, we're from Glasgow. Rangers or Celtic? I want neither. I support St Mirren. And they go, who? and I just pass over that part. But they say, you know, golfing's great over there. Do you play golf? No, I've played a couple of games in my life. That's about it. But the thing that I'd be interested in is that green rubber track, 2.4 kilometres round the golf course, and I'd fancy doing a few laps. Maybe not at this altitude, because the first time when after retiring from cycling, I got coaxed in to do the New York Marathon in 2008, and I got asked just the week before the Tour de France, so I went over to the Tour de France as a guest of one of the teams, and my first run ever was in Alpe d'Huez up to the airport. Telling you what, I could feel it burning in my lungs, and I thought, I can't do this. But yeah, I did 3 months later.
And that's when he took up table tennis.
Ping pong.
Vinny McGavie, superhero when it comes to Africa cycling. Not his kind of course at all today, but he's certainly good enough to keep up, at least for the time being. There we are, thumbs up. Good to see him. Good to see him. Do you know what? He's got a real sense of authority, and I just think maturity about him now. We've watched him come up through the ranks as a youngster. He's grown into the role of a hero of Africa cycling really well.
He is, but I fear a little bit with Biniam Girmay that I've worked with the first African than he did last year, and I hope he finds that fire back, because he needs that fire to continue to do what he did last year by green jerseys, three Tour de France stages, you know, that magnificent Gent Wevelgem one. We need that Biniam Girmay back.
Mali, I'm afraid, are done. Both Dano and Diarra have now decided to call it a day, or maybe they've been gated, because if there's a chance of being tagged here on this circuit, then you are taken out. But what an amazing kit that is as well. Just looking at the Beehive, which is our convention centre here in Kigali, absolutely beautiful building. Sense of modernity, but also a nod to the past as well.
Well, just to let you know that it's 15 minutes they get taken off, but the last rider is one of the Mali riders, and he's at 14 minutes and 52 seconds across the finishing line the last time. So most riders are climbing off. Red Walters has climbed off. He was at 12 minutes and 25 seconds down.
There you are. You're beyond the halfway margin of the average pace for the stage. What is our pace at the moment? Let me just.
Well, last lap it was just over 43 kilometres an hour.
Yeah. Well, they're not hanging around, but it's as an average from the beginning, accounting for just after the flag, and it was a little bit modest before our breakaway went up the road. But yeah, we're just under 41 kilometres an hour. Is where we are seated at the moment. Well, 42 and a bit, actually, 42.3 kilometres as an average so far. So we've covered 57, 58 kilometres, and as it stands, we're having some pushes out. And if Eric Manizabayo, I think he liked the party that welcomed him the last time up the rise at the top of those cobbles, actually. And you start to hear our friend on the PA with the leather larynx about to start screaming them over yet again. This front group on 7%. Plenty of Union Jacks here. The Union flag upon a jack staff, known as the Union Jack. Perfectly correct to call it a Union Jack, the Union flag, even though people always write in and say, you've got it wrong again. No, look it up. Remco Evenepoel bringing the golden helmet up towards the fore. It wasn't a humiliation of Tadej Pogacar, because Remco Evenepoel was absolutely in his pomp on the time trial, but to find 2.5 minutes and basically just tag Tadej Pogacar was something incredible, and Frank van den Broek is what's broken for Frank. He gets himself back on. Was it just a little bit of misgearing, maybe just a shipped chain? We've seen chains chucked off on this rough surface, Brian.
We've seen a few, especially to the entry. I think, unfortunately, for the young Scot, Erin Bithman from Glasgow, she had it in the junior time trial, and the same for the junior road race. And if you inch up your chain or pull your foot out or anything like that in this climb, you lose a considerable amount of time. But yeah, look, I don't think it was a humiliation for Pogačar, possibly the first time he's ever been caught in a time trial. But he finished fourth. He's only just over a second off the podium. I just think Evenepoel was totally dialed into the effort and, was head and shoulders above everybody else.
Well, there's no shame in finishing in the top 5, but the expectations were that Tadej Pogačar would indeed medal and possibly indeed take the wrestle to Remco Evenepoel. Different, of course, perceptions when it comes to this kind of distance. And as you said, Tadej Pogačar, if his head's in the right place, then he's absolutely bang on. There is a sense that after a few sort of withdrawals, especially a late one for La Vuelta, which caused all kinds of problems for his UAE Team Emirates team. But here he's well supported by former rivals, the likes of Primož Roglic within his team, Luka Mezgec. It's a very, very strong unit that Slovenia have brought to the party. They can manufacture Marshall, if you like, with 9 riders. That's a big team. It's the biggest team we've got here. 8 plus the champion, which of course is Tadej Pogačar. I think he likes the rainbow stripes. It used to be described as a burden, Brian, but he's carried them extraordinarily well. Yeah,
he loves them. He loves his Slovenian national jersey as well. Although out training to try and kind of be under the radar a little bit round about the Monaco area. He does wear just plain clothing, but he loves winning races in certain jerseys, whether it's a leader's jersey in the Tour de France, whether it's the World Championships jersey. And for sure he's come here to try and win again, and he's always thinking about creating history, and his whole team are here to support him.
We talk about the burden. Better explain myself, really. It used to be that when you wore the rainbow stripes, that essentially you were a target, and some riders felt that they were dialed out of success in other races because they were almost immediately jumped onto, and their attacks and their effectiveness really as a winner. You stand out, simple as that. So it was regarded as something of a curse that would stop you winning other races to carry the world champions bands, but I think Peter Sagan possibly put that to bed, and a few others as well wore them with great pride and efficacy, and Tadej Pogačar, it hasn't diminished him at all, it seems.
No, because there's not a lot you can do when he goes on the attack. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
So for a lot of riders that have been world champion, the curse of the stripes is because you kind of stand out in that jersey, and then you're expected to do more, and that's the problem. You are world champion. Wherever you go in a race, you're seen. Whenever you go on the attack, you're chased down. And whenever you're in front in a breakaway, you're expected to do more. It's as simple as that.
Like Kivu. Always love the optimism of a long boat. It's actually for moving goods around the place. But when you see a long boat going out fishing, you think, well, they're going to fill that with fish. And you go out in a massive boat, and you come back with a tiddler. That's what you had a big boat. I thought you got to fill it. That's the teasing you get. Meanwhile, teasing us into expectations, I think, Slovenia. They've not been that far off the front. Van Wilde has indeed called it a day. It was clear that was going to happen. Some injuries due to nudges of wheels. And for those of you that are perhaps joining us a little bit late, a lot of the major teams have actually suffered some significant blows to indeed their roster. Spain have lost Marc Soler. Van Wilde you have just seen. For Belgium, great time trials would have been part of the engine room to try and help Remco Evenepoel to rainbow stripes here. So he's lost. So Evenepoel has lost Van Wilde. Bjorn Kort is no longer at the disposal of Tom Pidcock, who looks a little bit second-hand himself as we look at Evenepoel as he crosses the line here with his golden helmet. So Kort, I'm afraid, is also out for Great Britain after really going through the tumble dryer, it seems. or indeed the rock roller. I'm afraid it was a rocky end to him as he went for a roll after a touch of wheels. There's a few others as well that have indeed been gated, quite a roster actually of those that come into this very, very hyper elite roster, possibly just a little bit with something lacking, but it's great to see so many nations represented here. I did love seeing Sao Tome and Principe, a nation that I wasn't very familiar with, I must admit, but an island nation. Just great. Started to look it up myself and thought, gosh, it looks absolutely wonderful, as it has been here. This doesn't look good, Brian.
No, I'm not at all. French dropping, not like flies, but already Alaphilippe down, and yeah, not good for Barret here.
Louis Barret would have been one of the hopes. I think very much an outside hope was Alaphilippe, but not well. The Tour of Rwanda itself, of course, is a spectacular race, and indeed it has entertained us and part of the UCI roster. It was the success of this race and others like it on the African continent that have, of course, made the UCI ponder the likelihood and indeed the effectiveness of bringing the World Championships to this great continent. We are here, and it couldn't have happened without the Tour of Rwanda. A cycling festival every single year, and now they of course have the right to host the World Championships. They've done it brilliantly. Minute 52 is our break. We are still playing with our circuit, and we are going to do so for quite a few more laps, and it goes on. Serbia, the latest to declare here, I'm afraid, and it's Onyan Ilic riding on his own, so very much a diminished roster. Now it's non-existent with just the solitary rider. Quite a few riders here, they don't have teammates. It doesn't mean that it's not going to go your way, but it's highly unlikely because you get this kind of service. This is Primožić, who is bottles. He doesn't need that many bottles, least of all one down his neck. Water carrier, especially when the days get a little bit hot, and we are starting to see some high cloud. The shadows have disappeared. There is a chance today of thunderstorms, but that doesn't mean that it takes away from the heat. We're in the centre of the African continent, in this landlocked nation at altitude, and we're talking about 26 Celsius as a maximum, but heavy humidity, and with the chance of thunderstorms. The calm before the storm, you might say, as you look around here at the vegetation, whether that be the palms, indeed the hedges, or indeed the cacti, the aloe vera. Yes, they're not moving at all, and as it stands, our pace today is a modest one. We're just underneath 42 kilometers per hour. This will get a little bit quicker. I've got a feeling that we won't see the full-on pace until we get possibly to the foot of Mount Kigali. We play with the rib, the Côte de Kigali, constantly within, of course, our small circuit here, but we do go on a longer loop. The definition of this longer loop, Brian, it's very, very tough, and I suspect that that's really where the first huge slice of attrition is going to be taken out of the main favourites today. We may lose a few at that point.
We may lose a few. It depends on whether they race it or not. It's the highest point, of course. The climb itself, 5.9 kilometres in length, 6.9 on average. So it's whether they want to play. I'm not too sure. Watching the World Championships last year in Zurich.
I mean, well, we have to see. It's my second elite World Championship, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's a very hard course, and I think it suits me quite well. So yeah, I hope I have the legs to be here in the final.
Because you've been showing very impressive things these last few weeks. You have the shape.
Yeah, I think so. I think from the Vuelta, I carried it here, and I hope it shows.
You like the course?
It is. It is a really nice course, and I think the climb the elite do, which is the Mont Kigali, is going to be decisive. So yeah, I hope. I think the race is going to explode, and I hope I can be there at the front.
Well, he thinks it will be on Mont Kigali. Let's wait and see. It depends entirely on the complexion of the race, how it's been raced until that point. But it is potentially an axis upon which this race may pivot. Looking at the clouds, Brian, some of them look extraordinarily threatening. When we get to the high ground of the mountain itself, as opposed to the little bosses that we're dealing with as part of the short circuit, if we do get a thunderstorm, it depends on how heavy that is and how long it lasts, but it will really be surely something of a shock on such a long day.
100%, and especially on the cobbles and traction and all that. But you got to remember the Kigali, the Mont Kigali is about 100 kilometres from the finishing line. Last year, Pogacar went with just under 80 kilometres to go to the finish, and it looked at some point he was paying for those efforts. Still managed to kind of hang on. I really don't think we're going to see that today. It's such a hard course, this here in Kigali, that I think it could be a little bit kind of later. So yeah, they're kind of half expecting it. I'd still be very surprised if we saw Pogacar and some of the favourites really go for it. But then again, I was surprised with some of the riders that were up there earlier on. Del Toro was following moves, earlier on today at the start. So I think 100 kilometres in this sort of course is still going to be very, very difficult. And I think what Pogacar will do is definitely use his team. I still believe this will be a little bit kind of later, the development of the race, rather than last year when he went from just under 80 kilometres to go his first attack.
Well, it's all about Pogacar, of course, but Roglic, he might come into play. I'm not quite sure what the national management is going to be like. Roglic would love to be world champion, of course. And race too difficult for Matej Mohoric, I would have thought. Great classics man. Luka Mezgec as well. Having a classics mentality is something, but of course translating that to such a long day, it's a very, very long day. Brian,